You're on.
Hi everyone, I am here with a true short story. This one's a little longer than the other ones have been. This one is called Sing a Song of Blue. The wild, swill-filled game of tag. Layla, did you play that when you were young? Tag? You guys know what that is over there in Finland? I don't know what you guys do over there and what you've heard of, like we do over here. It's where you, like, if you don't know what it is, which I don't know if you do or not.
Tag.
You like one of the games we play over here when we're little. You just run around and the first kid, you try to catch someone and touch them with your hand, and the first person you touch, they have to be it. And then they have to run, everybody else runs around, and you have to try to catch somebody and touch them, and then they're it, and it just goes on and on and on like that. It's one of the games we played as kids, and we loved it. Anyway, never mind. That's tag. The wild, swill-filled game of tag ended with Dave and his two little sons collapsed on the grass, blinking up at an ice blue sky. It was the first time he had seen Dagan and Devin in 7 days. He had picked them up at their mom's for a weekend of roughhousing and snuggling. As they lay on their backs, breathing hard and blinking up into the brilliant sun, 5-year-old Dagan spoke. "Why is the sky blue, Daddy?" he asked, in the confiding way of children, never doubting that Mommy and Daddy have all the answers they need. Little kids think, when they're that age, they think their parents do have all the answers. They know everything, They're the ones you look up to and look to for all the answers. They're so smart. They can fix anything, Dave smiled, amazed at the happy coincidence behind this question. Hang on a second, guys. Sure?
What?
I'm getting water sucked up through this hose. How'd you fix it last time? It's making a crazy noise. Huh? Water's getting in my nose. Alright, sorry guys, let's go.
I'll fix it.
Dave smiled, amazed at the happy coincidence behind his question. 3 days ago, it would have stumped him. But studying for a teaching degree, Dave was taking a physics class this term. Just 2 days before, his professor had discussed the science behind the simple phenomenon. In his best teacher voice, Dave began, "Light comes from the sun, right, Dagan? And did you know that the air has tiny invisible things in it called molecules? We can't see the molecules, but sometimes a bunch of them clump together and we get rain." Science. Water is one kind of molecule, but there are others too. We can't see them. Are you with me so far? Yes, Daddy. Well, the light from the sun has lots of different colors in it. You know that prism Mommy has, the glass thing, that when you put it in the sun, all the colors of the rainbow shine out? Those are cool. Those colors are all the colors hiding in the sunlight. Well, blue is one of those colors. And when the blue light bumps into the tiny molecules in the air, the molecules grab the blue color and bounce it around the sky. They like blue the best. The molecules do. And when they scatter the blue light around like pixies scattering fairy dust, you see a blue sky. Wow, Dagan answered softly, shifting his head on Dave's chest so he could feel the vibrations of his father's voice. It was one of his favorite snuggle positions. Dave smiled. It was a happy moment. That moment was a rare ideal in a sea of turbulence. He was sure he had contributed to the material turmoil that caused his wife to leave him 2 years before. But he couldn't sleep, and he couldn't help feeling depressed and resentful. And she'd moved in with a man who abused the boys physically and verbally. That just makes me mad. I know so many people like that. My niece and nephew had to go through that for years with different men. Still really are. Anyway, so many kids have to go through that. And it's the mother's fault. I don't care what anybody says, because that's their kid, and they're the ones letting it happen to them. When Dave went to the authorities, the boys clammed up. Yeah, because they were probably threatened not to say nothing. That's what happens. Afraid that if they told, they would have to go live in a foster home. That's a problem. He felt abandoned by the system. Now those are little kids. Who do you think told him that? If you tell, you'll have to leave. We'll put you in foster care. You know, that's what they threatened those little kids with. Because little kids don't know nothing about foster care. He felt abandoned by the system that was meant to protect his kids. Yeah, they don't. Because it's still coming on my nose.
Crank it out. Yes, it is.
He felt abandoned by the system that was meant to protect his kids, and by God, if God even existed. Days later, alone again, late at night, in a deserted dental office, Dave wiped down counters, vacuumed carpets, and washed the windows that reflected back his own haggard face. He had attended classes all day and had just begun his swing shift job as a janitor. The problem with a lonely, mindless job like this was that it was too easy to add up your troubles. Depressed, Dave didn't turn on the office radio to keep him company as he usually did. The radio sat high on a shelf and the patient records aglow, and tonight he just didn't have the energy to reach up and switch it on. He walked straight into one of the examination rooms and began cleaning the floor in silence, his anguished thoughts filling his head to the bursting point. He wasn't worth anything to anyone. What about those little boys of his? They love him. His ability to stick with school was doubtful. After all, he dropped out many times before. He could hear his own dad telling him he was useless. Show him different, Dave. When Dave tried to follow his directions, his dad sneered. Do I have to draw a picture? Are you stupid? Now he couldn't even protect his own children. Each time he complained to Children's Services, his kids suffered more because of his speaking out. Yeah, that happens. Because Children's Services usually, for kids that are actually being abused, won't do nothing about it. Know that from experience. What kind of parent was he to let his children suffer? As he wiped off the counter, he picked up the photo one of the hygienists kept of her kids, 2 blonde-eyed cuties. His eyes filled as his thoughts of Dagon's trusting face, that same face, clouded with confusion when he asked Dave why his mom's boyfriend liked to hit him. better. Thank you. He was a failure as a father, just as his own dad had failed him. He replayed the words he heard his father say every time he got angry. I'm going to kill myself. My niece and nephew has been in that situation. My nieces and nephews have been in that situation as well. Several of them. Tears brimmed in his eyes. It was time. Dave mentally turned to a familiar scenario, his final solution. On the 10-mile drive from his job, he pictured how it would end. A part of the highway was lined with 100-year-old valley oaks. He would get up speed on the straightaway. No, I know what he's going to do. He's probably going to try to steer into a tree, sure. He wants to kill himself. How it would end. A part of the highway was lined with 100-year-old valley oaks. He would get up speed on the straightaway just before the trees, jerk the wheel to the right, and within seconds there'd be nothing left but a tangled clump of steel and a broken, lifeless body. His old Bonneville from pre-airbag days would become his coffin. He pictured what an oak tree would look like from behind the windshield of his car as the tree emerged out of the fog, growing larger in his headlights. Remember, he don't even know God. Then total peaceful blackness, no noise, no sadness, no fear, nothing. He resolved to do it. Tonight would be the night. Strangely calm, almost elated that he made a clear decision, Dave lowered the blinds and left the examination room, shutting the door behind him. For the last time, he thought, dragging his cart into the clove. He stopped. He heard music. Funny, he hadn't heard it before. The radio was piped into all the rooms that he'd been cleaning for the last 30 minutes. He knew he hadn't turned it on. "Who's there?" Dave shouted, thinking someone must have come in. But no, the security door would have buzzed. That's weird, he thought, shrugging it off, lifting his mop out of the pail. Then he froze, mop suspended in midair. He couldn't shrug off what his ears were hearing now. Something like, "Daddy, why is the sky so blue? When I grow up, will I be just like you?" As the song continued, Dave stared dumbly at the speaker in the ceiling and collapsed to his knees like a first-class letter. Someone had just answered a message to him. He'd never heard this song before, and there it was, a message bouncing out over the airways. And who do you think turned on that radio and put that exact song on that he needed to hear so he wouldn't kill himself? God. For him, a radio turned on by an unseen power. For him, he wasn't sure of that. A flood of tears washed over him, and he was engulfed in the most incredible feeling of love and release of pain. A feeling like he'd never known before, the kind only God could give. But the warm embrace of love was followed by a jolt of sheer terror. What am I doing? If I kill myself, there will be no one there to protect Dagon and his little brother. Within seconds, his final solution was revealed as a ridiculous idea, what someone once called a permanent solution to a temporary problem. "I knew then there was a God," said Dave later. "I knew he loved me and that he was there to protect me and teach me, just like I'm here to protect and teach my kids. You need to try to get custody." That night was a wake-up call, a turning point in my life. I still have problems with depression, My boys continued to have problems with their mom's boyfriend until the courts finally granted a restraining order against him. But if that radio hadn't come on when it did, I would not be in here today. That God wink gave me the courage and conviction to carry on. It was the ultimate hang in there. There is a God, and you can connect with him if you will only try, said Dave. Dave learned the song he heard was Father's Love by Bob Carsilli and Randy Thomas. Daddy, why is the sky so blue? Does Jesus really hear me when I pray? That was a sad one. And you don't know, I've been in this situation as well with certain people in my family. You do not know that mother is probably, the mother of those two little boys, that guy's got a restraining order, her boyfriend, but she's probably sneaking him right back in. And the little boys are probably going through the same thing and being threatened not to tell their dad, or they'd go to foster care. Because that always happens. They choose the men over their kids. My nieces and nephews have been through that. It's always the men they choose. And other people in the family can't do nothing about it. If you try to get CPS involved, they won't do nothing. And they keep you from seeing the kids if you try to do anything. So, you know. It's just a lose-lose situation. Most of all for the kids. They don't care about when you keep the kids away from someone that they love and loves them so much. You're not only hurting that person, you're hurting the kids as well. But they don't care. Because they don't worry about the kids. They're just worried about themselves. And what they want. And what their man wants. The kids are the last thing they're worried about, you know. I see that with so many people. Not just certain people in my family, but I've seen it with so many people. It makes me so sick. I don't know how somebody can do that. I do not know. Anyways, guys, I'm not going to ramble on about this. That one just brought up a lot of memories. And not good ones. I hope we don't have any more like that in here. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Happy Valentine's Day. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. And God willing, we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another short, true story. Bye guys. God bless and good night.